What is up, YouTube? I am Eric and you are watching Retro Video Game Pickups. In this video, we are talking about the new Nintendo World Championship cart that was found in a storage unit. Now, we will talk about what it looks like, how it was found, and all that cool stuff in this video. But beforehand, I want to say, make sure that you subscribe because it will let you know when I post more videos and it will benefit this channel. So with that being said, let's check it out. Okay, so like I said, there is a Nintendo World Championship cart that was just recently found, and honestly, it's a pretty cool thing to keep seeing these pop up. Now, I know there weren't that many made. They speculate about 350. The last known actual number that is known is 348, so people just assume that there was 350. So that is kind of an interesting fact that here we are, almost 30 years later, still getting these carts found. And honestly, it blows my mind that we still find these things. These things are very awesome, very cool, and they don't show up that often. So finding them is a very cool thing, and seeing new ones come up is even cooler. Now, well, this one showed up, and we don't know what number it is because sadly it's in disrepair or kind of really bad condition. But we do know that the guy who found it, or the person that found it, was actually a storage hunter, storage auction owner, storage unit buyer. So they picked this up, they bought the storage unit, and this was actually found in it, which is actually pretty crazy. Now, if you know anything about storage wars, you know that it's a huge thing, or it has blown up into being a huge thing, is buying storage units. Now, what that means is a storage unit is a place where you would store your stuff, and then oftentimes people don't pay for it, so it just leaves, they just leave the stuff there in the storage unit, and someone has to come by and they auction it off and someone ends up buying it. Now, what will happen is oftentimes there won't be anything good or anything fancy, but sometimes you'll find some cool things. Well, A&E made a TV show called Storage Wars, and honestly, that blew up storage auctions, and people are always going in to buy them and all that kind of stuff, which is bumping up the price. Now, that's pretty crazy that someone had this game left in a storage unit. Now, it looks like they don't really know what they have, and I'll get into that a little bit later, but it's pretty cool to still be finding things today in storage units from way back when. So, like we said, there are storage units that people are buying and selling, and it's just a crazy thing. But to find a game that only 350 are known to exist is pretty wild. Now, what we have here is a Nintendo World Championship cart, which was, Nintendo had a championship back in the 80s, where I believe it was 85. Don't quote me on that, I might have my numbers wrong, but it was a Nintendo World Championship, was something that they made to kind of promote Nintendo's new NES. Now, it came out with some cool things. What they did was they actually had an NES that they had set up that you would actually put a cartridge in, and it would go in and it would play 3 games. Now, that is Super Mario Bros., it is Rad Racer, and it is Tetris. All of those games are fun games and hard games to play fast, at least. So that is kind of the deal. You had to go so far, and it was a few levels of each thing, and you had to go so far as fast as you can and get as many points and all that stuff in order to actually do well and move on through the championship. Now, what had happened was they made these custom carts, custom boards, and they made about 350 of them. Now, some were given to the winners, some were given to the like runner-ups, I guess, the people that made it to a certain event or whatever. But it's a very interesting thing to have because there's only 350 made. So that leads us to the one that was recently found, and that was an NWC cart in a storage unit here in 2019, and honestly there's been a few in the last month or two. There's been like 3 or 4 that have been found, so that's kind of interesting in itself. But here we are finding one in a storage unit. Now what is interesting about this is actually the label has been torn off, and people who owned it before, the Chris, it says Chris on the back of it as well, but they have torn off the label, wrote Mario, Rad Racer, and Tetris, which is a very interesting thing to say because they tore off, I'm assuming, or the label got torn off, it's possible that that happened, and wrote down with it in Sharpie what it played. And I found that to be very interesting that they wrote that, because honestly, you don't have dip switches on an NES game. So if I saw the dip switches, I would just assume it was that game. But no, they took it a step further and wrote on it, which is very interesting. Now, talking about the NWC cart as it is. Now, it is not in good condition, honestly, because they have that label that's been ripped off. They wrote Chris on the back and stuff like that. But I think it could sell for pretty well, honestly. You could probably fetch at least 10 grand for this. A lot of people would love to have an NWC cart in their collection. Now, I know that it is not in the best of shape, but it is an NWC cart, so that's very interesting. Now, one recently sold for upwards of $20,000. Whether or not it actually sold or not, we cannot be confirmed just because it sold on eBay. But with that being said, that's kind of a big deal. That is very, very, very expensive, and honestly, $20,000 for one video game is kind of hard to go for. So I find that very interesting that it sold for that much, but I could very much well see this one sell for about $10,000, maybe $8,000 to $12,000 is probably a better price range. But if it was to sell, which I'm assuming it is because the guy buys and sells storage action units, so I'm probably gonna guess that he sold that. So I find this very interesting here in 2019. We've got a ton of NES games. Everyone knows for the most part what an NES game is. So I think it is very awesome to find NES games still out there, still in the wild, and I think it is very awesome. So I saw this video, or I saw this topic, and I thought, wow, that is an amazing thing. Now, how I found that out was from the CU podcast. Now, I listened to it. I'm sure they made a video about it as well, but I haven't watched it yet. But I wanted to kind of talk about this. Now, I know that they have talked about the NWC cart before, because Pat from the actually has one. Pat the NES Punk, if you don't know, has a ridiculous collection. He has what I think is a complete collection. I would assume so, but I find that very interesting. So that is one thing that kind of brought this to my attention. I remembered him talking about this, and I was, oh, I wanted to talk about it. I made a note on my phone, and here we are talking about it. And so I wanted to know what you guys think about this. This is a very awesome topic. It's very cool to see things from way back then still coming to this day, being found, and what was lost for, let's say, 20 years, it was found because someone bought it and figured out what it was, which I think is very awesome. It is very great to find things that are lost, especially when it comes to video games. There are so many games that were made that maybe didn't see the light of day on shelves or just weren't sold, like the NWC. So I think it is very awesome, very cool thing to talk about, to find, and all that stuff. So with that being said, I want to know what you guys think. Do you think $10,000 is too much to pay for an NWC cart? Do you think it's very cool that they found an NWC cart here in 2019? All that stuff, comment down below. Let me know what you think about this video, what you think of this topic, and everything like that. Now, if you guys noticed, I did put in that, what do I call it, that intro that I used to use. I love that intro, and I thought, why not bring it back? Let's see what you guys think. So if you guys like that, also comment down below and let me know that you like the intro and whether or not I should keep it in and bring it back, or just get rid of it for a while and maybe not use it. So with that being said, I want to say thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Make sure you hit that bell notification because it lets you know when I post more videos, which is almost if not every day. So with that being said, I want to say one more time, thank you so much for watching, and make sure you have a good day.